Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare.
Reading from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, text 104. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam.
Krishna Vasa Karavena Kona Adane Vicharate Eka Shloka Aila Kandamane. While he was thinking about how to propitiate Krishna by worship, the following verse came to his mind. Tulasi Dalamatrena Jalasya Chulakena Va. Tulasi Dalamatrena Jalasya Chulakena Va. Vikraniti Shramatmanam Bhaktebhyo Bhaktavatsala. Tulasi of Tulsi, Dala a leaf, Maithrena, Matrena, Vyomni, Jalasya of water, Chulakena by a palmful, Va, and Vikranite cells, Swam, his own. Atmanam, self, Bhaktebhyo, Bhaktebhya, unto the devotees, Bhakta Vatsala, Lord Krishna who is affectionate to his devotees. Sri Krishna, who is very affectionate toward his devotees, sells himself to a devotee who offers him merely a tulsi leaf and a palmful of water. This is a verse from the Gautamiya Tantra. Shlokarta acharya karena vicharana Krishna ke tulsi jala devya yejana Tararina shodite Krishna karena chintana Jala tulasira sama kichu gari nahi nana. Advaita Acharya considered the meaning of the verse in this way. Not finding any way to repay the debt he owes to one who offers him a tulsi leaf and water, Lord Krishna thinks, there is no wealth in my possession that is equal to a tulsi leaf and water. Tabayatma vechikari rinera shodana Eta bhavi achaya karena ardana. Thus the Lord liquidates the debt by offering himself to the devotee. Considering in this way, the Acharya began worshipping the Lord. Purport. Through devotional service, one can easily please Lord Krishna with a leaf of the tulsi plant and a little water. As the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, 9:26, a leaf of flower or fruit or some water, patram pushpam palam toyam, when offered with devotion, very much pleases him. He universally accepts the service of his devotees. Even the poorest of devotees in any part of the world can secure a small flower, fruit or leaf, and little water. And if these offerings, and especially tulsi leaf and Ganges water, are offered to Krishna with devotion, very satisfied. Said that Krishna is so much pleased by such devotional service that he offers himself to the devotee in exchange for it. Sri Advaita Acharya knew this fact, and therefore he decided to call for the personality of Godhead Krishna to descend by worshipping the Lord with tulsi leaves and the water of the Ganges. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Manovishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaharayam Padandikam Rubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Sri Krishna
Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
So this is the Adi Lila introduction to because Adi Lila means the first 24 years. Then the Sesha Lila means the next 24 years. And the Sesha Lila has two divisions. The Madhya Lila, Lord Chaitanya, after he takes sannyas, he travels for 6 years, based in Puri. And then for the last 18 years, that's the Antya Lila. And that also has two divisions. I think he spends 6 years more with the devotees and then 12 years more in seclusion. Maybe the other way around, 12 and 6. And in the Antya Lila, that's his internal reason for his descent, is a Bahir Ranga Hetu and an Antaranga Hetu. There's the external reason for his descent and the internal reason. But sometimes when we hear external, it kind of sounds like superficial. It's not superficial. External means the external reason means the reason he came for others. And Antaranga Hetu means the reason he came for himself. And the reason he came for others is not superficial at all. The reason he came for others is to give what he was tasting and what he wanted to taste. It's Krishna. Why does Krishna appear in this world? He doesn't have to appear Paritranaya Sadhunam Vanashaya, to kill miscreants and to say, to protect the devotees. He can do that through his Vishnu manifestations. He doesn't have to come in his full intimate sense. Just a little side note, just for entertainment. Every year before Janmashtami in Vrindavan, I used to join this procession in Mathura. Keshri Gaudiya Math, Narayan Maharaj used to invite us, and we used to invite him for Balaram's appearance day. You come for Balaram's appearance day, and we'll go for Janmashtami. So he had a huge procession all over Mathura. And I remember in the procession we would pass the police station, right? And the motto of the police station in Mathura was Paritanaya Sadhunam Vanashayacha Dishkritam. We protect the sadhus and destroy the miscreants. Knowing that the police station where the foreign registration office was in Mathura represents Kamsa. I really wanted to do some graffiti and change it to Paritanaya Dushkritam Vanashraya Sadhu. We protect the miscreants and destroy the devotees. But so the hetu, the external cause, is what he's doing for others. See, because Krishna comes for two purposes. Why does he come? Because he wants to distribute Raganuga Bhakti, spontaneous devotional service. Which means Braja Bhakti, it means devotion to Krishna. And the real understanding of relationship with Krishna is spontaneous. Because Krishna comes in the Madhurya manifestation, not the Aishvarya. It's the heart of God, and he comes because he wants intimate relationships. And intimate relationships means spontaneous. There's no formality. There's no obligation. There's no duty. There's no fear. As when God comes in Aishvarya, in his majesty. So he comes to relish, to give this and also to relish it. So why does he need to relish this here in the world? I was trying to think of that. I heard once that there's a special flavor to relish the sweetness, that spontaneous love here. Kind of in the material world, it's kind of like when you're in a dark setting, maybe something feels brighter or something. Mm-hmm. But he comes also to distribute it, to taste it and distribute it. But Krishna fails. And why does he fail? Because he's trying to relish the rasa. The giving is more than the getting. So he wants to take the position of the devotee. So that's the reason for Chaitanya, that God, to be complete in his love, has to relish love from the position of his devotee. He also failed in sufficiently distributing it. Why? Because he hadn't realized it. He hadn't fully realized that because Krishna didn't have love of Godhead. That was in the heart of the devotee. He had to take the position of the devotee. So these are the reasons why he comes. And the internal reason is to relish it himself, and the external reason is to give it. So the giving, the relishing it himself, that happens at the end of his life in the Adi Lila. And the giving, more or less, happens more in the Madhya Lila. He's traveling and distributing it. And then the Adi Lila are the spontaneous pastimes in relationship with Chaitanya that his mother and his wife and his friends have. And of course there's a little bit of the foretelling of the nocturnal kirtans in Srivas Sangha. Lord Chaitanya comes back from Gaya being so enthused. So here now, the beginning of the Adi Lila starts with, I think it's 17 verses, which establish it basically, to speak spiritual literature, you have to have some realization of the subject, and that requires humility, and therefore to enhance your embracement of the humble position, you have to pray. What to speak of, to write transcendental literature, you need mercy. Because it's beyond intellect, it's beyond analysis. It's the existential nature of God, because that is how God wants to be. It's not. There's a lot in this. I'm going to explain the different arguments of God's existence. Why the personal concept of God is a reasonable conception. Why the conception of Krishna is a reasonable conception of the absolute reality. And why Krishna's pastimes is a reasonable conception of what that absolute reality is. But in terms of the thing is, why is Krishna blue? Because he wants it, that's the way he is. If there's a reason why Krishna is blue, he's not God. The cause of him being blue is God. So, so in the beginning, there are all these verses to glorify God, Guru, and the devotees. To become empowered. No spiritual path is independent of bhakti, because the success of that path requires something beyond one's effort. And therefore, every path has to have worship. Bhakti does not have to have karma again. You just have to sit at the lotus feet of a pure devotee and hear. You don't have to be the greatest philosopher to have bhakti. You have to have realization. You have to hear. But you have to want to be a devotee. You have to want to surrender to Krishna. You have to have some knowledge and understanding, of course. But it's not gyan. Kirtan and Dhanurdara could. and he started to just dance blissfully, right? The Babaji's were stunned. They never saw devotion. It was kind of like, the blissful, his face was just lighting the whole place up, you know? The simple bhakti. Simple bhakti. Anyway, these preparatory verses. So, then there, I guess this is discussing, there's one about Advaita because she is one of the causes. God moves out of reciprocation to his devotees. Because God is love. Love means you move according to the desires of your beloved. So even though God is the supreme controller, he moves out of love, which means he moves out of the desires of his devotees. So ultimately he's going to come to this world out of the desire of his devotees. And what's the desire of Advaita? It's compassion. He sees how much suffering people are going through. You want the philosophy of Krishna consciousness before your eyes? Just walk in Manhattan and look at people's faces. And see what happens when people don't have transcendental knowledge. For the most part. I can't say for everyone, for most of the people. They're completely bewildered about what to do. You walk down and, I guess, I was like that at one time, but you walk down and you just think, you see the way people dress, the way that people move, and you just think, like, how can anyone come to the conclusion that that's their self-identity? How can they come to that conclusion? That's their realization. That's their idea what happiness is. Walk by the Karma Bar on First Avenue. What are people thinking? And it has what would he think now? It's probably easier now than another week. Because the people there, they were logicians and smart Brahmins. So they had a reason to be proud. Now people have no reason to be proud. That's why Jiva Goswami says, Kirtan in the form of devotion is unlimitedly merciful to those devoid of the sense of false prestige. Devotion in the form of Kirtan. And he said, therefore it's good in this age. Right, Adi, all the humble people that come for the food for life, right?
It's funny you said this late, the Karma Bar.
Yeah.
We brought the lady who owns that bar here to
Yeah.
the temple room several times, 3-4 times. She sat down and chanted japa, and actually several times in the kirtan down on the second floor when we had the temple there,
Yeah.
she was dancing in a circle with the brahmacharis. Oh, Indian lady.
What?
She's an elderly Indian lady.
She's an elderly Indian lady.
Yeah. Well, see, her son started that bar and he died of AIDS. He was a gay guy.
Wow.
And he left the bar to her, and so she stays at the bed and breakfast, and she comes like once a week, and she goes over and does the
Adi, you are petite poverty.
But that place is so dark and moated out.
Yeah.
If you've ever walked in there,
Yeah.
it's like, that's weird. It's not just the darkness of the darkness, it's like, it's haunted.
Well, you see, the thing is, because when Indians do the same thing that Westerners do, it's 100 times more degrading. Like if a Westerner gets divorced, big deal. You know? Well, the second, you're the guru, okay, try again. It didn't work, okay, the third time it'll work. It's a different culture, so I think that's the thing. I think that's sometimes why India suffers so much sometimes. Prabhupada called it second crow philosophy. The crow's already eating the remnants. We're eating the remnants here. They're eating our remnants now. It becomes even worse. So imagine the compassion of the Dvaita Acharya. So he wants to call Lord Chaitanya. And now it's discussing what is the method of calling. The method of calling is Krishna is controlled by the love of his devotees. The strength of God is that God is not impersonal. And impersonal means you are not controlled by love. Because you have no heart. The glory of God is that he's controlled by love. So his pure devotees, when they call him, he comes. And what is pleasure? It's love. And what is love? Love is the bhakti is the essence of God's own bliss potency. So it's God's love that he enjoys by giving to the hearts of his devotees. So how powerful is that? How powerful is that? And that's put in the hearts of the devotees. And when the devotees get that, they can control God. It's why God does not give that so easily. That's why Baba is described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Baba is described as Sadulava. It's very difficult, because God doesn't give it easily. Because he gets controlled by love. It's such a beautiful thing. We can control God. We can bring God in our heart. The Bhagavatam promises that. You can bring God in your heart in a way that he can't get out. Second verse of the Bhagavatam says that God is arrested within the heart. But one who has faith, who has attachment, he controls God. So, in Dvaita, he thought from the Gautamiya Tantra. The Gautamiya Tantra, I know one other verse from the Gautamiya Tantra. It seems like it gives ways in which you can please God. The Gautamiya Tantra is also when Indra went to Lord Brahma to try to see how I can pacify Krishna, because I made this huge mistake. Lord Brahma thought, he quoted from the Gautamiya Tantra also, that there's 3 ways that Krishna is very much pleased by the love of his cows. He's very much pleased by the love of his cows. And there's 3 ways in which you can worship the cows. You can circumambulate the cow. You could feed the cow. And therefore, his reciprocation with the devotees is not partiality. It's relationship. In other words, it's not a calculation, a personal calculation. I think that samaham sarvabhuteshu named vaishas dhanavya. I am equal to my devotees. I'm not attached or averse. But because like a father, if a father is especially caring and affectionate to his child, no one accuses him of partiality because he's not that way with everyone in the neighborhood. He's not partial. That's expected. It's a different category. It's partiality when there are equals to you and you treat one with favorites. But the devotees giving their life to Krishna completely, of course he reciprocates in love. That's not partiality. Okay, we have 1 minute for any questions.
What you're saying, Lord Chaitanya was distributing, but he couldn't give it unless he had it.
Yeah.
But then the Madhya Lila happens before the Ananta Lila. He distributed it before he experienced it. So is it possible, my question is it possible that his distributing it is what gave it to him?
Adi, you have a very compassionate way of looking at things. But what happened is he met his guru, and he got it. He just didn't get it fully. But before he got it fully, he was still distributing it. And naturally, that was part of the process. But he still sat down in Puri and worked on his bhajan. If you want the example, he worked specifically on also cultivating it internally by his practice. But yeah, he had it at a very high level too, but he wanted to really cultivate it further. Thank you, that's a good question. Okay, anything else?